more.
Now, you talked about you know, having the workforce for it, and workforce training has been one of the things that you've concentrated in your terms. But workforce training really starts in first grade or in kindergarten or even pre-K. And you were out in Augusta recently and mentioned some issues with regards to how we can improve their schools. Right. How did that conversation go when the Army's looking at coming into some place, just like any private company? They want to know what kind of schools there are for the children. Right. Did they raise concerns, and how can we address those concerns, not just related to Augusta, but to other places in Georgia?
Yes, they did raise concerns about it, and they showed us a breakdown of where children of their employees that are stationed there are going, and the majority of them are actually going to Columbia County, the adjoining county. Some are even going across to Aiken, South Carolina. They had concerns about that. I felt it was appropriate to express those concerns because it's not just a question of a military establishment in a community, although we're always on guard against a new round of BRAC that might reduce or eliminate military facilities in our state. And to shore up and make sure that there are no objections of this type to any facility that's currently in Georgia, I think is an important part of our preparation against BRAC. But it is not just military establishments, it is businesses in general. They do not want to send their employees to a community where the children of their employees are not going to be able to go to appropriate schools. And it is one of the reasons that I think all of us should be very, very concerned about improving the quality of our K-12 system.
When we hear discussions of both the Opportunity School District and some legislation this year, we'll often hear about funding issues in the schools. We'll often hear about you know, the need to change decision-making processes or decision makers sometimes. But what seems to be missing, I often think, is somebody saying, "Come help us." Is that something you hear? Is that what's going on there? Why are we not hearing more about the need from parents to give their children more options?
I wish I knew the answer to that one. I think many times the parents of these students are in a poverty situation themselves. Perhaps they do not pay as much attention to the quality of the education their children are going to receive. And I think also they're relying on school boards, principals, superintendents to take care of their children and to educate them. And I would like to think that that system, as we now have the status quo, is working. However, we have seen that since we were debating the OSD a year ago, when we were talking about 127 chronically failing schools in Georgia, that is, schools that for 3 consecutive years had never made above an F. Now, when we finally got the results back for last school year, we found that it's no longer just 127, it's 153 with 2 more that the information is not sufficient to classify them one way or the other. So we're on a downward spiral. And I think this legislation that Representative Kevin Tanner has done an excellent job in promoting and developing will set us on a right course to begin to make an inroad into dealing with that issue.
What are the major differences between what Representative Tanner proposed and the earlier Opportunity School District?
The Opportunity School District, of course, would have taken those schools out from under the jurisdiction of local school boards. This legislation is an effort to work with the local school boards to improve those schools, but it does have some teeth to it. It does have the ability to, for example, in the extreme situations, to even remove school boards if the situation does not improve within a specified period of time. You know, I think the real problem is there's very little accountability under our current system. A lot of people would think, well, you know, we've heard about school boards that have been put on probation and their accreditation is at risk. What they don't realize is the only thing that SACS, or an accrediting agency, can do is based on governance of the school board. Do they get along with each other? Has nothing to do with the academic performance of the schools, and SACS and any other accrediting agency has no jurisdiction to do anything if a school system continues to have chronic failure. This legislation will begin to give some teeth and a structure for being able to turn around those schools.
And so this will be really the first time that the state can intervene on the basis of performance, not just on whether the school board is getting along and doing their meetings according to the format or whatever.
It will be the first meaningful ability of the state to intervene in those situations, yes.